Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Nerdisms podcast. This one is a very special one that I vaguely hinted about before I even knew it was actually going to happen or not. So I went to 221BCon in Atlanta a couple weeks ago, and I got to have a really cool roundtable edition of the podcast with a bunch of friends of mine. I do vaguely mention like seconds later what happens, but basically I got to sit down with a bunch of my friends and we got to talk about the TV show Sherlock, and mainly the women of Sherlock, because they didn't have a format for us to do that at the con this year, which was really stupid, and not gonna get into that, but I hope you guys enjoy this episode. It was so much fun, and we recorded it very late at night, but it was a lot of fun, and yeah, I hope you enjoy. Hi, so I'm in a hotel in Atlanta with a bunch of my friends, and they're gonna introduce themselves in a sec, and we're first gonna talk about some misconceptions that we get as people who ship Sherlolly. And then we're gonna go into the Lady of Sherlock portion of the podcast. But first, I want them to introduce themselves. You want to go first?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm Claudia. I am Holy Batch on Tumblr.
Mm-hmm. I'm Sally. I'm Molly and her jumper on Tumblr.
Woohoo! Channy, Shirley Smooch on Tumblr.
Stacy, I am Sherlolly on Tumblr, and I am not giving that up.
Okay.
I'm Angie. I'm Geeky Angie on Tumblr.
Mm-hmm.
Woohoo! Oh.
You?
I'm Heather. I'm STL Geek Girl on Tumblr.
I'm Katie. I'm O0 KatieKin0O on Tumblr.
Which is like the hardest thing for me to remember ever. I always get one wrong. I'm like, why can't I find
make it
you?
as difficult as possible.
And last but not least,
I'm over here. Sid.
Okay.
I'm Damsel Introduction.
Last but not least.
and last but not least,
Captain.
the captain.
Hi,
I
I'm
forgot to.
Joelle. I'm Miss Jolie on Tumblr and everywhere else in the universe.
Okay.
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
Capitan.
So who wants to start with the first
Misconceptions of Sherlollians.
I'll start.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Go for it. It'll pick you up.
One of the biggest misconceptions I think that people who do not ship Sherlolly have about Sherlollians is that we are a group of needy, weak, desperate women, because how could we possibly ship a ship where it's so obvious that Sherlock couldn't ever care about the likes of Molly Hooper?
Cuff, bullshit, cuff.
Yeah.
That's one of the big misconceptions, but I mean, if you look at the development of Molly's character from season 1 through season 4, she goes from being this, kind of tittery, nervous, trying to get Sherlock's attention and him just kind of brushing her off, to him telling her, basically, you are one of the most important people in my life.
Yeah.
I have always trusted you. You've always counted. And Moriarty screwed up when he did not put you on that list of people to put an assassin on, because you were the one that mattered the most. And so I don't really feel like that makes us shipping, makes us ship this weak, pathetic woman, and that makes us weak and pathetic, because Molly is not a weak and pathetic character. Yeah. She is strong.
Oh, yeah.
Don't forget, she's too old now, too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that
Oh,
too.
my
Yeah,
God.
women have expiration dates. Come on now.
I think
Surprise.
my biggest misconception that I think we face, this is Katie, by the way, is that we're heterosexual.
Yes.
That is the
okay.
main misconception about us, and I think you'll find
Most
if
of us.
you do your
research.
Your research.
you'll find that most of us are queer.
Yep. I'm
and
bi.
those of us who are not
yeah.
queer explicitly are somewhere on the A spectrum.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And we have trans people who are in our group. And we represent a wide margin of the LGBT community.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of B's and T's. And,
A lot of B's and T's.
And pluses.
Mm-hmm.
But we are certainly not a straight ship.
Not by any means.
And the majority of us are probably bi or pan.
Yeah.
And it just makes sense that people who like multiple genders are into a ship with multiple genders represented.
True.
That not everybody ships Sherlock as 100% heterosexual either.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
I mean,
nobody. Yeah, nobody.
Yeah.
What-
We're not
and Molly,
delusions.
sorry.
We know that. Well, first of all, I had canon Molly as bisexual.
Yeah.
So do I.
And
Not everyone,
and
but
maybe
that's
that's allegory on my part because I happen to be a bisexual woman
Yeah.
and that's how I experience the world.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But we're not. I find both people in that ship attractive, and that is why I like it. Yeah. Well, one of the many reasons why.
Yeah.
So that's my input on that.
Okay.
This is Miss Jolie. I just want to say, too, that one of the misconceptions seems to be that we're all a bunch of white women. And
We're
although
not.
that does fit me, that does not fit everybody in the room that I am looking at right
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
Not at all.
Like, I am brown.
Brown.
And it's not just a good tan.
The person running this podcast is brown.
I am. I'm biracial, so yeah.
Right, and I'm Mexican American, so
Yeah.
We have women
don't
of
fall.
color. We have women of color in this ship. We love women of color.
Uh-huh.
We celebrate them.
Yeah.
They belong here.
Yep.
They deserve a space here.
I know some men in this ship.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
do too.
I know
Yes,
some
we know.
straight
Speaking of,
men in this
one
ship.
of them just got engaged.
Yay!
Congratulations!
Sherlolly's Jolly. He
Yeah.
just got engaged.
Caleb.
Yes, Caleb. I just saw it. I was like, oh, so he's probably gonna listen to this. So congratulations.
We love
Excited. Yeah. But yeah, we have all kinds in this ship, in this
And we
part of our
welcome all
family.
kinds.
Of
Yeah.
course. That's like my favorite part. Like, you can just step in. Like, I know people are like really nervous when they first get in, like they don't think we're gonna accept them. Like, no, just come on in.
Yeah.
Who was it that said today that they can ship John Locke, but the people they want to hang out with is Sherlolly?
No, I didn't hear. What?
I didn't hear that.
I didn't hear
said that
that.
to me
What the
today.
hell?
That's
Hell
kind of
yeah, 'cause
amazing.
We're awesome.
They're like they ship John Locke, but if the people they want to hang out with are Sherlolly.
That's kind of interesting, actually.
Yeah, because we're very
very
We're
chill.
the friendly, chill people.
Yeah.
Well,
We want
Molly
to
is
party,
from
but
that
we're
show.
also considerate.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be formal, but I'm here to party.
Oh my god.
One of the
Yeah.
other misconceptions that seems to come online in a case of, I want to say maybe gaslighting, is that some people seem to think that we start crap.
We don't.
Yeah, we don't start.
It's the other side.
But we will finish
Everyone,
it.
We
every
will
time.
Or
finish
they
We'll
think
finish
that we're
it.
like being too sensitive, but we're
No,
really
we're
just
not.
this.
Yeah,
this
we're
is
like defending ourselves.
Years in the making of there being a lot of crap in our tag, and I mean we're not.
There's only
just
so much
gonna-
we can take.
We're not going to ignore that. You know, it's like we're just.
There is the whole idea of ship and let ship, but there
Yeah.
comes a point
When you tag our ship,
Yeah.
if you're going to invade the tags,
We're
and
not
if you're
going
going to
to-
go after us, we are not going to just sit back
We're going
and
to
take
stand
it.
up, and then we're going to talk to you and explain to you why we're upset with you.
We also don't only ship Sherlolly.
Oh no,
Many of
I'm a
us have other
multi-shipper.
ships.
Yes.
Yeah. Mhm.
It's just
It may not appear it so,
right.
but
Sherlolly's are number one.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Male
it's the
ship.
concept.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Greg and Sherlock.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
I'm a Maestron shipper.
Yeah,
Maestron.
I'm my
Strad
stride.
shipper too.
Share
I
Strad
like
all
it
the
too.
way.
Your strat, yeah, is my main.
Yeah.
Okay, so another misconception is that I've seen, which is my favorite is that oh yeah, sorry, I'm a STL geek girl.
Oh.
It's like, who am I? Sorry, no. Is that we all ship Sherlolly because secretly we all want to sleep with Benedict Cumberbatch.
I mean, it's half true, but
To be
no, at
fair,
the same.
I would like to sleep with Benedict Cumberbatch, but when I
I
first
just want to
came-
see it.
There's nothing wrong
but to
with
be
that, though.
fair, Lou Brealey Yeah, she's my goddess.
She's freaking gorgeous.
She's
my
gorgeous.
God.
I love her.
And not only is she gorgeous, she's just as a person.
She's amazing.
She's an incredible human being.
So yeah, I came into the ship in Sherlolly. I'm in this ship now, pretty much just shipping Molly Hooper with just Molly Hooper because
Exactly.
she's
Molly
Yes.
Hooper with happiness.
Yes.
With happiness.
Yeah,
Molly
we just
Hooper-
want Molly to be happy.
Molly
and-
happiness.
And
Molly
the,
should
And
whatever
that's
she
canon
wants.
because we saw that at the
yes,
end.
Yes,
she
we
was
did.
happy, so happy,
Yes,
and
we
like
did.
yes,
Just because we ship Molly with Sherlock, there are a lot of other ships that ship Sherlock with other people. So I don't think it's unreasonable to say that everybody probably wants to sleep with Benedict Cumberbatch.
I mean honestly,
You can't. This is
This is Sherlolly on Tumblr, by the way.
You can't tell me that other people who ship Sherlock with John or with Irene Adler or whoever they want to ship it with don't ship them because he's hot and they
'Cause he's
want
hot.
to see them.
bang,
Do it.
just bang,
Yeah.
Like, why do only Sherlollians get shipped for that when? Why else would you ship other than thinking, well, it'd be really hot if those people would bang?
yeah.
And to be fair,
And I think they're hot, and I would like to watch them bang. Like, I
Ben
don't
doesn't make
I
it.
like to think about them banging, yeah.
Ben doesn't make it hard to do when he's giving you descriptions about what he can do to
Oh
a person and talking about violinist fingers.
Oh my
right there.
God.
He's
And
talking
then-
about
yeah.
testing latex.
Yes, yes.
my heart.
His
Yeah,
holding
I
out
know,
my
right?
I would know what to do with my. I mean, his finger.
yeah.
And his tongue and how to please people, and I'm just like, okay.
Also,
We're writing a story about that.
And
Oh,
I
yes,
wouldn't
we
even
did.
have to
Sounds like a great
enter,
story.
is what he said.
Yes.
He was way into that interview.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just wanted like take back like proof.
People
Thank you
made
for that interview,
Pixar
Benedict.
didn't happen.
Also, one of the reasons why I like to ship Sherlolly is because, you know, I like to see a woman.
Yes.
Like, be like, just because there's a woman, like, Molly is a woman, and, like, I want to see more of that. Like, I'm not interested in other.
Two peens touching each other.
Yeah.
I have to actually read about a woman's pleasure. You know?
Yes.
That would be lovely.
Experiencing pleasure and taking it with her by her own
Right.
hands.
And,
Yes.
and I think it's a very female-driven media in this shipping realm. And this Katie's by the way. And because of that, the perspective on sex is very sex positive in a female-centric way.
Yes.
Which is not something that you see.
Not at all.
Especially for many of us who are a little bit older and we may have grown up in a way that was
Not
very
female
sex
sex
negative,
positive,
and just the very notion of a woman enjoying sex makes her a slut.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love the opportunity to rate Molly as somebody who's very sex positive and very comfortable with her. Hey, look, this is what I want. And,
And isn't
there are
afraid to
enough
say it.
stories about men in the world. I am not interested in creating more stories about men. I want stories from a woman's
And Molly
perspective.
commands, she doesn't just own her sexuality, she commands her sexuality.
Yes.
We're having quite a lot of sex.
Yes, exactly.
We are having.
Going
yeah.
back to what Katie was saying earlier about a lot of us are queer.
Yeah.
I'm Molly and her jumper, sorry. A lot of us are queer, and so having sex scenes from a female perspective, not only because it's nice reading it, but we all really have crushes on Molly, so it's
So
Yeah,
true.
secretly.
it's nice
yeah. Or
for
not
the
so
pleasure
secretly.
to be focused on her.
Yeah.
It's just nice to read.
Yeah.
And I haven't really come across that a lot beforehand. So
I've said it before and I'll say it again and I'll say it every minute of every day until I die. But I really could give a crap about men and their feelings and their thoughts when
Yes.
it doesn't have anything to do with a female narrative or her life, or it is somehow taking from that. And I just never ever want to see it or hear it, and it's fine if that's what other people like. But I just don't have it in me to care about another man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like one is enough.
Yeah.
Mary Watson said it quite well, I think, during that last episode. I'm tired of hearing it from a man's perspective.
Yes.
I think
Got
for
another
me
one?
too, and I think the sex is an important part of the story. This is damsel in deduction. So I think the sex is an important part of the story, but for me, I think shipping these two characters is very much that I do feel like Molly Hooper is a good match for Sherlock on
Yes.
a non-sexual, on the way that they balance each other and provide for each other. I think very differently than John does. I think John, we get to see, you know, a lot of this was written from Watson's perspective, and we've seen it. We get to see that a lot of that, and John has his own demons. Molly has hers too, but I feel like Molly, you're always seeing what she's doing for the characters in the show, and she's really constantly reaching out to Sherlock. And sometimes it's handled, you know, whether or not you liked the way she slapped him in that episode.
Listen,
it's handled how it's handled, but you always feel like she's really looking out for him.
Yeah.
And often, sometimes to her own detriment or whatever goes on behind the scenes. But you really feel like of all the characters, Molly's the one that really doesn't let Sherlock down. For me, that's a huge piece of that.
Yeah.
Show.
And I'll say women in STEM.
Yeah.
Yes,
that's important.
I think that's one of the things that made me really love her is that she's so passionate. You could tell she's really passionate about her job and what she's into, and that's something that you don't always see in media. And I'm really glad
she's
they did that.
unapologetic for it. It's, I mean, she may, you know, have some other things that she says sorry for, you know, but like, yeah, just to see someone enjoy their career like that, and to just have stuff, and she's
exactly.
and
Little
she knows
Miss
it,
Perfect.
and Sherlock knows it. He goes to her for
he trusts her.
He trusts her. She's probably can do better chemistry than him because he.
He went to her and she was like, "You're a graduate chemist," and he's like, "I need someone with like basically a practical approach." There we go.
So he
just
he knows he's a smart one.
I have lip gloss here.
Sorry. Any more misconceptions?
That we're super girly.
Oh yeah, I'm like
the subby thing.
Oh yeah, I'm like the most tomboy. I mean, I was wearing a dress today, but I'm like the most tomboy person that I actually know.
Your dress today was totally like
Your dress was adorable,
and you looked adorable.
Yeah,
yes.
it was very cute.
But yeah, that was like funny thing. I'll probably post a photo or. I don't know. We didn't get a group photo with all of us dressed.
I know.
But yeah, we were all in dresses for the most part for the Sherlolly panel earlier.
Yeah,
and
because there was one person that posted that all Sherlollians are white, cis, het females, girly girls, submissive,
Frills.
preppy, frilly,
like
lacy.
frilly dresses.
When people talk about us, it's so obvious they've never talked
exactly.
to us.
Yes.
Met us. They're just making assumptions. I don't even know how they're making these assumptions, but let me tell you something. I'm older than Gandalf, okay? I played with Star Wars figures and Hot Wheels cars as a kid. Never had a manicure, never had a pedicure. Don't give a crap about them. Rarely wear dresses. Think that a lot of women are just a bunch of spoiled brats. Does that sound like a girly girl? I don't think so.
And I have half a shaved head. Currently, my hair is purple. Yeah, I do. I have piercings and tattoos, but I do enjoy a manicure. I gotta admit, I do like a manicure. I like a pedicure. When the opportunity presents itself, I'm very strongly pro.
And my thing is, it's like, I mean, I am a girly girl.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
so what? Right. I don't have to do with anything.
That doesn't invalidate your opinion in any sort of way.
Absolutely. I may be one, but like, okay, who gives a shit?
Next question.
Next
That's totally just built into this whole misogynist.
Yes.
Women are bad, so if you're girly, then you're bad.
Yeah.
No.
That femininity is a terrible
In
thing
and
to have.
of
It
itself
really
is
is.
a cancer.
That is it's a weakness, and Molly
Yeah.
deals with that. I mean, I think that's part of some of the anti-Molly feelings. Well, she's feminine and she's weak and she's whatever.
Yeah.
She's strong in her own way. It's not the same strength that maybe the other characters show, but she has her own strength about
That's
her.
why
And y'all don't get to decide who's strong and who's not.
I love how she's quiet, like she's strong in a quiet way.
Yes.
That's why I'm really drawn to her.
Me too.
Why I'm really related.
She's
I relate
the
to her a
anchor
lot.
of the show.
Yeah, the cheek that bends that doesn't break.
Yeah.
Because you can be quiet,
She's not
but you
an
can be strong.
ex-assassin.
Right.
Yeah.
She's not an ex-assassin.
Not that we.
She's not a dominatrix.
We do love our ex-assassin and our dominatrix.
That does not make her weak.
We
It
do
does
love
not
we
make
love
her
all
But-
women.
Yes.
But she can definitely kill someone if
Oh,
she
she
has
could
to.
kill someone. She could kill like an accident. She could kill someone and get away with it.
We were joking earlier that she didn't break up with Tom. She killed him and hid the body.
Well, I mean, no awkward moments then, you know?
Right.
She is a
No awkward,
pathologist.
like running into the
She could-
McTesco going, oh, hey, how are things with you, you know?
Yeah.
She is a pathologist. She could kill somebody and make it look
I
like
mean,
an accident.
She probably
Or
really
hide the
hurt
body.
his hand when she stabbed him with that damn fork. I'm just saying.
Oh, you know,
why
she
hurt
Watson said plastic forks at their wedding.
She hurt Sherlock's face when she slapped it with her.
Oh, I know.
3 times.
Her little hands. With her little hands that are probably hard as freaking concrete.
Yeah.
And who better for a guy who loves himself a murder than somebody who could
Exactly.
potentially murder?
Exactly.
Just saying.
And
These
get
are the
away
things
with
I
it.
I
should have
know. And I don't think he would be.
that's so perfect.
I almost feel like he wouldn't even really be that mad at her.
He'd be impressed.
I love the meme that was passed around. I forget who posted it, but it was a Tumblr thing, and somebody was like, "What everyone thinks Sherlollians, or what everyone thinks a Sherlolly relationship is like," and it
Right,
was
and
like,
it was Ward and June Cleaver from
yeah,
Cleaver.
and then it was like what Sherlollians think Sherlolly is, and it was Gomez and Morticia.
Oh my
Adams.
God, yes.
And that's like how we see it. It's
Perfect
this
relationship.
perfectly,
Oh, yes.
morbidly, disgustingly weird geek relationship.
Literally,
But
that's
very
them.
romantic.
Very,
Very
romantic
romantic.
and
Very
sweet.
devoted.
Yes.
Yeah, because let's remember the very first time we see Molly and Sherlock
He's
together, what's
beating the body.
happening?
He's
beating
beating
the
the
body.
body.
And she's
And
just
she's turned on.
she's into it. She's so into it.
Smiling.
And then she asked
wishes
him
she was
out
that body.
for coffee.
Yes.
That is a man
What
that
kind
I
of
need to date.
Exactly.
Yeah. Get in
Oh
my
my
pants
God.
now.
Yeah.
Like, who does that? Like,
I
if I
know,
saw
right?
something like that, I'd be like, whoa, I need to stay away from this. Because, like, I want
Like,
to take
I
him out
need-
on a date. Give me
Yeah,
your
red
number.
flag, red flag, red flag,
Yeah.
and then she's like, yes.
Yes, I'm into this.
That's that's the checkered flag.
Ready,
We're
set,
off to
go.
the races, buddy.
So another Tumblr meme is that I've seen going around is everybody should be happy that Molly Hooper is all sunshine and kitty cats and rainbows and lollipops, because if she ever goes on the dark side,
Oh man.
God
Y'all
help
fucked
everybody,
up.
because it'll be the one case Sherlock will not be able to solve because
Oh,
she's
I
got
know.
it down pat to a science.
Yeah.
She could be the biggest bad guy for him.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm glad they did not go in that.
yeah,
Thank
exactly.
God.
And thank God that
Thank
she's
God.
all sunshines and lollipops.
Will get me
Yeah,
through.
but that's what fic is for, though.
Yes,
Yeah.
the
Well,
dark Shirley.
One of the things I loved about Molly's character was that because she was not canon, she could have been.
She could do
Oh, she
anything.
could totally
She
been
could have
there.
served any purpose for the writers, and I'm fine with what they did with her. But at the same time, it was like, what el- she could have been. Any, she could have. I remember reading ideas that she could have been Sebastian Moran. And she
Oh
could have
yeah, I
done all
know.
that stuff.
Yeah.
They
That
could
would
have
go
done
with
whatever
Mary's
her.
Moriarty.
There you go.
Yeah.
No.
Since we're jumping straight
Because-
into women.
and obviously women are evil, so
Yes.
that would work.
Yeah.
It's the whole Pandora's box thing. This
Yeah.
notion that women are the source of all suffering.
Yeah.
Even the apple.
Yeah.
And far too many women have bought into that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like when I see people who, I'm not saying people who ship certain
sorry.
things are inherently anti-Sherlolly, but the people who are anti-Sherlolly certainly do, unquestionably inhabit or have a certain amount of internalized misogyny inside of them.
Yeah.
You know, they're talking about, Molly's age and her value in terms of her age, in terms of her looks. We discussed it at the Sherlolly panel last year, or the Molly Hooper panel last year, where April brought up, brought up a wonderful point about how people often refer to Molly as plain.
Yeah.
But Louise really is not plain.
No, she's gorgeous.
She is
Gorgeous.
a beautiful woman. She is what we refer to as quote unquote TV plain.
Yeah.
And the TV show does play up her. They play down her looks.
Yes.
Yes.
That's
they
very
do.
obvious. If you look at her at John and Mary's wedding, the way her hair was just pulled back from her face, it's a contrast. They're trying to, I think, physically make her look different from other women. Say, Janine, the bridesmaid,
yeah.
Irene Adler, and I've seen a theory floating around that the reason Sherlock reacted so negatively to her at the Christmas party was because he was identifying Molly's look with being manipulated.
Yes.
The way he was dealing with Irene
Yes.
at that point. So that's, a theory.
That's
feeling
one.
herself.
That might be an element into the way he reacted to her presence.
Yeah.
But again, the thing is, the show either feels that they have to keep her looks downplayed, and when they do play them up, they do it in such a way that it looks very artificial and awkward.
And sweet.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very
That
sweet in
fucking
a way.
bow at the wedding.
The
Yes.
well, it's a
Is
fascinator,
she
but yeah.
5? It was terrible though. It did make her look so young.
Yeah.
Yes. It's not something that I would have had, like, in my head canon, what I would have seen her in my own mind to
More
wear.
like the christening outfit. Now that.
See, that
I love the
that
christening
is more
outfit.
of where, and yeah, that's the direction I was kind of going in my head for how she would dress in her personal life, just when she has a chance to, you know, do a little.
But even
extra.
then, she's still inherently Molly
Oh, yeah.
because she's still wearing the sweater the prints, the prints, and she still has the,
and just
Yeah.
a genuinely wonderful person.
Yes.
And
Which would segue us into the women.
I was
sorry.
going to
Miss-
say, and there are the other women of Sherlock that are just as fabulous.
Yeah.
So who do we want to jump with first?
Yes,
You're
absolutely.
My
Let's go
goddess.
for it.
I love
Actually,
your
I have a
songs.
question. So, what were y'all first impressions? Okay, I want to say before you found out who she was. What was your impression of her? Like before we knew who she actually was.
Bus girl or
Yeah,
okay.
as the I guess was she blind or supposed to be blind?
No, she was just blonde.
She just had no.
She wasn't.
Oh no,
blind.
she wasn't blonde. She was
No, blind, as in she couldn't see.
No,
With
she
the
couldn't
cane,
see.
or was it her
Cane was when
leg?
she was pretending to be
that was when she was
the
being
daughter.
Okay,
right.
yeah.
And she had like
okay.
a limp.
She had a limp.
Okay,
No,
yeah.
it's bus girl.
She had the red hair.
Yeah,
And all the
weird.
The
jewelry.
awkward smile, yeah.
Yeah.
She actually had a Molly vibe in that
Yeah,
sense.
she
You
did.
know
And
who
she
she
be-
reminded me of was Jessica Day from New Girl. She
Oh
reminded
yeah,
me
yeah,
of Zoe
yeah.
Deschanel.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, she's doing like the little manic pixie, cute.
Dream
yeah,
girl.
Manic Pixie. That's
Right.
kind of what she was going for.
So
there.
John
Yeah.
Watson's ideal girl is Manny Pixie Dream Girl.
Apparently
That makes
so.
perfect sense.
I don't know
Yeah.
about that, but it definitely caught his eye for a second. It was different.
Yeah.
It was different than what he's got.
To be honest,
John is definitely the
eye for
person to
longer
fall
than
for
his
the
head.
Manic
Yeah.
Pixie thing.
But
Yeah.
we're not talking about John.
No,
We're
Okay.
definitely
So
not
to be
talking about
honest-
John.
Yours
I
was
lo-
definitely an excellent mimic, and
Yeah.
I think of all the Holmes, she actually demonstrated even better than Sherlock the supposed great Sherlock ability to disguise.
Yes.
Yeah.
All of Sherlock's
Yeah.
disguises were not really that great.
Hers was
Yours
like
were
amazing.
I know.
Yeah.
If you if you
That's
look
what I
at
love.
like the disguises we see all of the Holmes do, if you want to rank disguising ability, it's
Yeah.
Eurus is number one,
Ben
and
Mycroft.
then down below, I don't know. I think Mycroft is third because yeah, I mean
I don't
you
know.
have-
His fisherman
like
was
Well,
that.
we'll know that
His
one
beard,
at the
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 beard,
beard
that
was
was
great.
Well, no, but that was
She's like,
intentionally.
why aren't they watching the guard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first person I know who said that.
Yeah.
Well, we're not talking about Mycroft either.
Right.
But
No.
the thing
But my
about
thing with
Eurus
Eurus was-
in all of her guises, is, the kind of demure bus girl, and then as the therapist, and even as Faith, they
God, I
all
loved her
have
as Faith.
one common, very important common denominator. She knew exactly how to present herself so that every person would see exactly what she wanted them
Yes.
to
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what made her very scary.
I didn't even figure out she was the therapist until the end.
I didn't even until she took the glass. I was like, wait, what?
Then I was like, for that split second, you thought it was going to be Moriarty.
Yes,
I did.
yes.
I did.
Oh my God.
Honestly, the comment she made about how she could be anyone, a
Yeah.
girl on a bus, a therapist,
Yeah.
how
Great
people
line.
don't take a second look.
Mhm.
And that's a comment, honestly, I felt like that was a comment about the way men view women in general.
Yes.
Or just interchangeable wallpaper. Yeah.
Yes.
There goes that
She
word.
presented herself as the therapist too. Was
Oh,
so plain, like just pretty much monotone, brown eyes. You know, like
So yeah, so is here, by the way.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
specific, like oh, you guys are fucking recording.
Yeah.
Come on.
No, in that like specific like way that like counselors will dress, like sort of
Yes.
like 70s, like
Yes.
I know
They did a
women were
similar
older who dressed
thing
like that.
on United States of Terra when she had the altar that was a therapist. It was almost like the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think getting back to the disguising yourself and how to act and how to present yourself, when Eurus was Eurus and we really saw her, it was interesting acting because she was so like a clean slate, and then she would remove one thing or one quirk, and so you noticed all of these like twitchy things that she would do in these reactions because it was so plain most of the time. It was just very like no emotion whatsoever, and then any little thing you noticed, and you almost felt like uncomfortable. Sort of like how Hannibal Lecter in the Old Silence of the Lambs didn't blink. You're like, jeez, that's so creepy.
Yes, she had a very Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah, she really did. It was really
Especially
fascinating
in
to
that
watch.
scene with Sherlock when he goes down to like visit her the first time. It's like, whoa.
I hope they submit her for an Emmy.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my
amazing.
god.
Yes.
I loved her.
Yeah, I loved her in her Ophelia too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was a great Ophelia.
Brilliant.
So what about Mary?
Mary.
She deserved better.
She deserved the world.
She deserved better.
She deserved better. And I've said this to someone else earlier today, but I don't understand how a character from like the Hound from the Game of Thrones is able to survive literally everything that should kill a person.
Yeah.
That should kill a
Should,
person.
yeah.
And he's the worst and most awful human being in narrative. And yet, Mary has to take a bullet for Sherlock, and why?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I need answers for that. Yeah. You know?
Also, the way it's shot is really weird to me. Like, the way she moves in front of him, it looks very strange.
It's because it's not supposed to be possible because
Yeah.
the bullet's going so fast.
And she was so far away.
She was
It
so far.
it was
She was
very
There's
trying
no
to
spurt
move
of blood, and you
in
go
front of
flying
him.
back.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It could have been done so much better. There are plenty of Sherlock Holmes stories where Mary is around.
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
Sherlock shows up and says, dude, I need your help. And he's like, all right, somebody can watch my practice for a couple days. Let's go. There was no reason she had to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially since they're not making any more.
Right.
Exactly.
And the fact that they are, there was the argument that Mary was a problem in the, and I don't mean a ship relationship, but the relationship between John and Sherlock. But now there's a child, so how are you going to tell me that Mary was the problem, but the child is not?
It's way more of a problem.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of a certain side of the fandom were speculating that the child wasn't John's, and I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Because I cannot stand this baby trap
Yes.
nonsense. Because if you look historically, who is trapped with another person once there's a baby involved?
The women.
It is not the man.
It's the woman.
It is the woman, and that is the truth. You know, and I just a baby is not a trap.
It's not a trap.
Yes.
A baby is a person.
I think before we get too far from Mary, I'm going to circle back to Mary. I think she's a really interesting character, and it always has amused me that there's a lot of the fandom that is not willing to forgive Mary anything from her life.
I know.
But boy, will we forgive everybody else, everything else that they've done.
Particularly Moriarty.
Yeah,
which is
I
interesting.
know.
There's this sort of oh my darling
He's a
little
bad
son
guy.
for Moriarty, and he's
Good old fashioned villain.
yeah, he's definitely a good old fashioned villain. Where Mary is really, really making. She has her own redemption arc, and I don't feel like there's a good chunk of the fandom that did not. Wasn't willing to give her that redemption arc.
Yeah, they weren't.
Sherlock gave her redemption immediately,
Yeah.
and the first that he risked his life to get out of the hospital and try and help them work things out. And said, "John, you can trust Mary. She is on the right side. She always has been."
His fascination with Mary is similar to his fascination with Irene and his fascination with Moriarty in the sense that they're all the same kind of person.
The whole
They totally get why people
And,
are
and he met Moriarty. Oh, fun! This is someone I can play with, like a playmate.
Yeah.
And then, oh no, the way I feel about his feeling for Moriarty is the same way we felt. Any of us as women have felt when we have talked to a man and had some minor thing in common and had like a friendly conversation with that person and like related to them in a small way, and then suddenly they're obsessed with us. Suddenly we're being stalked. Suddenly we're getting these hateful messages going, why don't you understand why we deserve to be together, why we're meant to be together. And I just feel like that's the vibe that he ended up having with Moriarty, and then he meets Irene, and it's they're the same kind of person. And he's attracted to her, and he wants to make sure that she can survive, because he needs to know in his own heart that people like him can make their way in the world. And then he meets Mary, who is teaching him how to make his way in the world. She's the same kind of person as him, only in the roles have reversed. She is teaching him how to be the person that he is and make his way in the world.
And I think Mary is special too because Mary really likes him.
Yes.
Really likes him.
Yes. Genuinely love
And
him.
Molly does too, but it's different.
Yeah,
He
it's a different
worries about-
dynamic, yeah.
in my opinion, he worries about hurting Molly and doing that wrong. With Mary, he feels like you shot me, you owe me a little bit of a playroom here. I get to kind of like, I can bounce around this relationship a little bit. And she really gives him a real affection that there aren't too many of those characters in the show giving him. A playful, I understand you affection.
Yes.
So she's so fantastic. I don't know why. It kills me that Mary doesn't get as much affection from this fandom.
Right. I know.
I think she really, I feel like, changes Sherlock on such a level. Before she took a bullet for him.
Yeah, exactly.
I think she really allowed him to be himself. And I don't think the scenes with Faith would have made as much sense. I don't think that the relationship with Molly goes as far without Mary to be like, you're okay.
Yes.
This is who you are, and it's fine. And we love you.
And I feel like that's something that he's taken in.
Yeah.
He's internalized that message that she gave him, and now I feel like his job that he's taken it upon himself as his mission to impart that information onto his sister, who is also the same kind of person as him.
And the one thing that gets me, and of course it's television, so it's taken to an extreme, but what woman in her late 30s does not have a past that she's not proud of?
Yes.
It's true. We're not all assassins. But any woman of the age that Mary's character is has a life that they led that they're very happy to have said goodbye to.
Yes.
Either they were not the person they wanted to be, or they made mistakes early on in their life. So I think for a lot of people who are of an age where they understand that, I think being the age that I am, I really identify with that because I would not want people who know me now to know how I was like 20 years ago.
Oh no,
because I was a completely different person, and so I think that Mary's situation is obviously taken to a TV extreme.
Yes.
But I think it's something that people can really relate to. Is I'm moving on. I'm trying to make my life better. I'm trying to be a better person than I was in the past.
Yes.
It's almost like the old trope of trying to keep the husband from knowing that you weren't a virgin.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not even 30, but I mean, I don't.
God, really?
I turned 30 in June. Okay. That makes you feel better.
A little bit.
I thought you were older.
Aww. That actually makes me feel good because people think I'm much younger than I am. But I'm not even 30, but I have the person I was even 5 years ago. The people in this room, I would not have wanted you to meet that person.
Right. Exactly.
I just don't think that the person that I was even 5 measly years ago was such a different person than the person that I am now. That I get it. I mean, I'm not an assassin. I promise I'm not an assassin.
You're not?
But
That's what an ex-assassin would say.
But also, there's speaking of women who are not who we thought they were. Mrs. Hudson.
Oh my God.
Okay, I want to amend my earlier statement about the people who were like Sherlock, who are the same kind of people as Sherlock. Mrs. Hudson is the first person who is like him, who has shown him you can have a life. You can make your way in this world. You can stake your own place in this world and be the way that you are, and have the past that you have. And, think the thoughts that you think.
She was a freaking burlesque dancer.
She was
And
a
drug czar.
stripper. Let's
And
not
a
try
drug
and
czar.
class it up. She
Oh
was
my
a
God.
stripper.
And a drug czar. I love her.
She only did the typing.
Whatever.
Typing.
The woman has an Aston Martin, for Christ's
Oh,
sake.
no.
Who helped her hide
Typing.
all that money when her husband got
She drove a getaway car.
Typing in
Yeah.
a little light getaway car.
Yeah,
driving.
exactly.
That's it.
God love. And she regularly nicks Sherlock's handcuffs, so she can have a little bit of a naughty on the
Little
side.
naughty time, yeah.
And we have
And
her
his face
herbals
in slow
in the
motion.
evening because
That's
she
like-
can't sleep without
That's
her
like
herbals.
walking in on your parents having sex. The look he had.
The look he had was like, no!
He ends up at
One of the best things I think about Mrs. Hudson, though, is, and it's something that we end up seeing with Molly and we see with Mary, Mrs. Hudson doesn't take 1 ounce of crap from Sherlock.
No, absolutely.
It seems like she does for a long time.
Yeah, but technically she doesn't.
I'm not your housekeeper, but I think that's born of affection
It
and
is.
not
Yes.
of anything else. But
She
then by the
adores
end,
him.
she's just like, listen,
Right.
you're not
I'm
my
gonna-
first smackhead.
Yeah.
Yes. You know what? As we're having this conversation, I'm realizing it's really just the men in Sherlock's life that take his shit. It's
Yes,
really the women.
true.
The women
Women
don't
don't take
woman
any
in
of
his
his
life
shit.
who
Oh,
takes his
so
shit.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The women see right through him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mycroft
Mother.
cleans up after him constantly. I have a whole thing in my head where I'm like, I love Mycroft, but at the same time, I really feel like he enabled Sherlock.
Enabled
quite a
her.
bit.
You know,
he definitely
And
did.
especially after all the reveals at the end. And John, of course, come to my flat and then give me my phone that's over there. And John does it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or get my phone from out of my pocket of the jacket
That
I'm
I'm
presently
wearing.
wearing.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think as far as Sherlock, I think a lot of that is Sherlock testing him.
Yeah.
What can I get away with?
But yeah,
How
he's
far can I
pushing his
take
boundaries.
this?
It's very teenagery.
Yeah.
Well, I think
He's-
Sherlock is stuck in permanent.
He's
teenager
stunted.
for a long
And
time.
now we know
Desperately.
why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Part of it
We
is.
see
Yeah.
him grow up, but it takes some effort.
But Mrs. Hudson is definitely a force to be reckoned
Yes.
with.
Oh,
Yes.
Screw with her at your own risk.
I feel
Yeah, I
like
think-
Sherlock's mother, too.
That's a really
Yes,
tough woman to
that's-
read
that's-
because
I
Yeah,
know.
Yeah.
we're presented with
We only get a
this
couple.
middle, this
Well, I
sort
don't
of
know.
middle
He's a
class
certain amount of
family.
resentment toward her.
Right, I have a
And I don't-
file. Mycroft, I have a list.
list.
Mycroft has a file. But
Well-
then when we're shown her, it's like we're not really shown this. I don't feel like you can be like point the finger and say this is
Yes.
perfectly nice.
their fault that or
And
yours
now we
came
know
out
it's
that
Mycroft's
way.
fault. No,
It was
Ruby's fault.
completely, yeah.
You asshole.
You know, Sherlock's the way he is because they let him crawl into this hole
Right.
and stay there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then again, who blames your oldest son and tells your youngest son that he's always been the adult when everybody knows that Sherlock's never been an adult in his entire life?
Except we don't know how he's like with his family because
Right.
we're
I
not
know.
given that dynamic except for
Well,
what we
there's
see.
yeah, good point.
The holiday, yeah.
It's a holiday
I am
thing.
more
I
willing
think
to
she
give
was
her a
specifically
pass.
trying to hurt Mycroft because she
Yeah.
was pissed off at him
Yeah,
about
good
your
point.
race, and that was the most hurtful, hateful thing she could say.
She
Yeah.
yeah. Get
Yes.
right to him.
I feel
Yeah,
like
because Mycroft
especially-
was a child when all this happened too. Like people don't think of him, but that's like 14 is a young teenager.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
all that
no
on the
matter how
shoulders.
intelligent he
And
is,
as
like,
the
he doesn't
oldest
have-
sibling,
and
yeah.
he
Yeah, there's a lot
doesn't
of
have
pressure.
any sort of emotional intelligence at all.
Right.
And that was a big burden to put on a 14-year-old.
But the point
Yes.
is not Mycroft.
Yes,
Right. Get back
sorry.
to the women.
So we haven't
but I
really
do
talked
think that-
about.
But one thing about, just real quick, I'd like to say about Sherlock's mother, if you remember that line from Mycroft in his last vow about, I have to, I had to call Mummy and Dad, and I have to call them. They'll be thrilled about you interrupting their line dancing.
Yeah.
I feel like in episode Empty Hearse where she stomps her foot down and he's like, I promise to call you and all that. She gets her shit done.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
he's a mommy's boy.
Oh
She
yeah.
is.
I
Definitely
think
is.
I mean, could you
Love you,
imagine
bye.
having Eurus, Sherlock, and Mycroft in the same
Oh
household?
my gosh.
Yeah.
She has gotta be.
Wouldn't you go on dancing?
Yeah.
Well, you know, okay, like when I think about TAB or the Abominable Bride,
Right, yeah.
and I think about Euros in those terms, and when he talks about the women we've put aside, the women we've crushed under our feet, the women we've forgotten, ignored, neglected, I think there's a part of him that knows that he has allowed, and he's a child. Obviously he can't help it, but he's gonna feel guilt about the way his sister was treated. Because there's no version of how Eurus is treated that is okay.
Right. She's the mad woman in the attic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, the whole thing is very Mr. Darcy. It's very, it's
Rochester.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mr. Rochester. My
Jane
bad.
Let's get our Regency heroes.
Yes, I'm sorry. There's so many of them.
No, obviously there was very deep, terrible things wrong with that child, but
Yes.
locking her up and using her gifts.
Yes.
And never getting any help for her. It's just
and basically keeping her neglected.
And it makes me really feel sorry for her, even though she's a terrible human being.
It reminded me of Minority Report.
She didn't have to be
terrible.
Yeah,
and you wonder how much influence, I will bring it back to Mycroft, Uncle Rudy had on this teenage boy. As April rightly pointed out that he was. And how much he got trained up by Uncle Rudy as his successor. You are going to have to be the one to deal with your crazy sister and your traumatized brother.
And not just to deal with, but manipulate for the good of what your position in the government and whatever else. So they are tools to be manipulated. So none of those kids had a fighting shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One big question I've had about Eurus that they kind of danced around, but I don't feel like we ever got a definitive answer. Given how she was, who she was there really anybody who could have made her more normal, so to speak?
Well, I seriously think
Sherlock is the only
I don't
answer.
think any psychiatrist could have.
She needed her brother.
No, and she doesn't need to be normal. She needs to be
cared for.
She needed to be cared for as she was.
And cared about as she was.
Yes.
And she just got locked in a pure white room with nothing but some little sliding things to give her food and an occasional treat.
I feel like Nero's
children, they are taken.
She's a woman who is locked away and used for the betterment of a man. And I feel like she is a metaphor for the way women are treated in this society. In a patriarchal, sphere, this is how women are treated. We are taken away from what we love. We're taken away from the connections that we need to have with the people around us in order to ground ourselves, in order to understand ourselves. And she's taken away from all of that, and then her gifts are used and abused for the benefit of a man.
True.
And she doesn't even like her gifts.
She doesn't even like them.
She's terrified of being the way she is. I mean, the final scene where she's literally like, I've been in this plane for so many years and I can't find a way to get down.
Yes.
And it takes Sherlock, her favorite brother, to be like, I'm here for you. You can come down. You can let go.
Yeah.
I think she kind of loved and hated Sherlock in equal measure.
I think she was jealous of Sherlock.
She was jealous.
Absolutely. I think but that's siblings 101, isn't it? Like we love them, but we hate them, and we push them, but we need them.
And just from the snippets of their childhood that they showed us, Sherlock was actually probably the most normal.
Yeah.
He is the idiot
children.
one.
The most emotional one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I love the violin scenes.
Oh yeah, the violin scene was amazing.
That's what I like about fic now is in the fics now in the post season series 4 fics for Sherlolly, when you talk about the Euros interactions, so many of them are Sherlock and Euros simply just playing violin together, and that is how they're communicating with each other.
Yeah.
It's not just, we're playing for therapeutic purposes. It's we're actually having a conversation here.
Yeah.
We're building bridges.
Yeah. Not trying to fix, but trying to repair a relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. She doesn't need to be fixed. She needs to be understood.
Yeah.
And never set free again.
And never set free again.
She can't get out.
No,
Yeah.
there's no place in society for her.
She doesn't need to be free, but not alone.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't think she would, even even if it was like, okay, yours, I don't think she would really want to be a part of what she would consider the ordinary society. I think she's so beyond. I think she'd kind of be at a loss.
It's kind of like the prison thing, where you talk about the men and women who have been in prison for years and then they're let back out in society and they don't know what to do. She's been in a prison since the age of 5.
Solitary confinement.
Yeah, solitary confinement. How do you take somebody out of that and put her into... She can't ever go back into
All
public
we ever
society.
saw her doing was being somebody else when she was
Yes,
out.
exactly.
And the final problem is all about her showing her brothers, look what you have done to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Revenge.
It wasn't even revenge.
Revenge!
She just, I don't
Sorry,
even think
I
she
didn't
wanted
mean to put
revenge.
hers
I don't think she wanted to hurt them the way
No,
that
it
she
was-
was
She
hurt.
was yeah.
She wanted them to say, she wanted to say, look what you've done.
Instead of
You've
ignoring
hurt
and erasing.
me.
She was
reaching out.
You've hurt me, and by extension, you've hurt others. And why?
And when
Because you couldn't cope with the person that I am.
And when Sherlock acknowledged that, she was perfectly happy.
Sorry.
Yeah. And I think she, the whole time, also in her own way, she was crying out to Sherlock for help.
Yes, she was completely.
Like
She didn't know he didn't remember her.
I know, and that's the most heartbreaking part about
She
it.
doesn't have the emotional vocabulary to say, I need help.
Yes,
All she knows
exactly.
being a kid is playing games. So I'm going to set up a game for you, and you haven't played, now you have to play. You have no choice.
Plus the fact that Sherlock, she knew enough that he enjoyed games. So
Right.
she
Yes.
thought this is the only way I can connect to him, either from both perspectives.
And if you think about Moriarty as a pawn of hers, and the amount of time he spent referring to their interactions as a game,
Yeah.
it makes you think.
It actually, yeah.
Now, what about Irene?
Oh, yeah, that was the next one I was going to bring up.
Okay, here's my thing about the way Irene was written in the BBC version of Sherlock. Is the scene where we see her making the deduction about the boomerang is in his mind. It's basically him having like a nocturnal emission about what he, like an ideal woman that he, you know what I mean? She's got the physical attributes that attract him. She's got, you know, the markers for the mental attributes that attract him. And then he just like filled in the blanks on his own. So
what you're saying is that was
she's really not
Winkler.
that physically different from Molly.
No,
Yeah.
She's not. Their size is just about the same.
They're thin, the face shape, the thin lips, yes.
The
Oh, definitely the
Smaller
boobs.
breasts,
The
yeah.
tiny tits.
The tiny tits.
I remember reading a fanfic once where somebody referred to Irene's ample bosom. I'm like, I think you don't know what the word ample means.
I know. That means...
She's built like Molly Hooper.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
very similarly built,
But
yes.
whereas Molly was always, her features were downplayed, Irene's were always accentuated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Because Irene
and her-
traded with her. Irene's trade was to get money and to get power. Irene's trade was her body and getting secrets and getting things that she could hold against people to help keep her safe. And Molly is like the complete
What do you need?
opposite of that.
But I think, too, the thing is...
What can I
think
give to you?
April, weren't you the one that said that she's not an enemy, she's not a villain, she's an antagonist?
Yes.
Yes.
Which was a
Yes.
really important distinction to make, and
Yeah.
until you had said that, it didn't click with me. And I went, yeah, you're
Yeah, 'cause
right.
she's
She's just the same as them. She's as amoral as Sherlock is.
Yeah, she's just a woman doing her best too, really, with what she has.
Yeah.
Like, and a lot of, if you talk to a lot of people who are really big fans of Irene, you have a lot of backstories about like why she was like that, especially if she was gay, you know, or bisexual, you know, growing up, and like what sort of caused her to maybe think that this is what she needed to do to get by.
Right. I think she is gay.
Yeah.
And I think her fascination with Sherlock is why? You know, this isn't my favorite flavor. So why?
If you think
I need
the
to
whole
explore
aspect
that.
of sapiosexuality too, then that's not something that they're going to put out there like, well, maybe she's really bisexual. No, but maybe it's because of that mental attraction.
Yeah.
That also translates to a
Brainy is
physical
the new
attraction.
sexy.
Brainy is the new sexy.
Because she was
Sexy.
definitely ready to bone him.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think a lot of it boils down to like a really ham-fisted way of this straight man trying to convey like fluid sexuality and also getting like, really clever dialogue. Like I think that's what it all kind of boiled down to with Irene's sexuality.
Yeah.
It was just like bad writing.
And
By the way,
So
this is
true,
So
yeah.
/ Giant Plane Late. She came in a little bit later, but she's in this.
But Irene's not a bad guy. Like Moriarty's a bad guy. Like Magnuson's a bad guy. Everything that she does is to make her safe.
Right.
Yeah.
So all the
For
all the
protection,
blackmailing that
yeah.
she's done is so she can have a safe place and escape. And even at the final scene where she's dealing with Mycroft and Sherlock because they can't figure out how to get into her phone, everything that she lays down is completely for her safety. the plane out, the money, the undisclosed location, all the stuff is for her safety, so she doesn't end up in jail for everything else that she's done.
But she has done stuff. We're not going to deny.
No, she's totally done stuff.
So
Yeah,
much.
no, there's
And let's
blackmail
not
for
pretend she
power.
doesn't enjoy the power of this.
Oh, no,
particular
she
game.
totally enjoys
She
the
absolutely
power.
does. But again, I think that Sherlock sees that and kind of likes that because he enjoys the games he plays.
But
too.
her idea of power is completely
Yes.
different from Moriarty's idea. He's, let's watch the world burn. She's
Yeah.
like, this is fun.
Yeah,
And Magnuson
absolutely.
is just, I want to own everything in the
Yeah,
world,
Magnuson's
you know.
just like, I want to own
He's
people.
creepy, yeah.
And
I wanna be-
Caperton
yeah.
Smith is, you know, just
Yeah. Well, you know that
Fuck
concept
up.
of like true freedom is if you think you're free, go into the deli and piss on the cheese. You know, that whole
That's an awesome thing, and I've never heard that before.
Me neither. Oh my
That's amazing.
And I think that's what he's a man who's truly free. And when you see a man who is, and by free I mean untethered by the notion, the concept of morality.
Yeah.
And that's not something we see in Irene.
Yeah. Because she can't ever be that truly free.
Right.
I do think, and I like for somebody used the phrase ham-fisted before. I'm going to use that one too. In a ham-fisted way, Irene was used to make Sherlock confront his own sexuality.
Yeah.
And the idea that like, no,
You can't escape
I don't do relationships. I don't do. She's like, you do them on some level. You do them, and she
Yes.
really made him kind of force that. Like you are a human male, and you have
Yes.
attraction to whoever it is. You care about people. Don't pretend you don't.
Which
And
goes back
And
to
you may
Molly.
not
Right.
be in relationships, but
Right.
you do hard-ons,
Right,
and that's a thing.
Yeah, it's
So-
totally a thing.
So she kind of smacked him in the face with that, and I do
Literally,
think that Irene had
with
a
the
lot.
riding crop.
And he's a man who knows his way around riding.
Yes, he does.
She'd cut her hand off.
But
that,
his
though.
cheek-
I do think that there was an emotional connection there because I don't think that Sherlock would have been upset at the end if there hadn't been. Because I've always thought that whenever he's confronting her with the phone and she says, it's not real, I was just playing the game, and he says, I know, and this is just losing, he's not talking about her.
Yeah.
He's pissed.
Yes, he's
not talking
extremely
about her losing.
pissed.
He's talking
Yeah.
about he lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, and I don't think that if it was a sexual attraction, that it would have been, he would have been that pissed off about what
Yeah.
he felt.
But that was definitely
You
a
know?
huge element of it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And again, that emotional connection that he has to her doesn't have to, diminish anything he could feel for anybody else later.
Exactly.
Yes,
But I wonder
exactly.
if there was a realization of that toward the end of that episode.
Yeah,
That, like
and that
I can do this. Like
Yeah,
this
I
will-
can still be this
Yeah,
person.
yeah. I can still be this person and still solve the case.
Yeah.
And still have something with someone.
Yeah, and then one thing I really like too is that, taking again some bad writing and making the best of it. I love there are Irene fans who will say, yeah, we kind of know what Moffat's intention was because Moffat didn't understand A Scandal in Bohemia at all because he was just like, why she didn't really win? Why blah blah blah? Because he didn't understand the connection that Irene Adler and Sherlock Holmes had in the original story, which is not really a romantic connection at all.
No.
But so he makes it into this thing, but Irene fans talk about this, and it's a good way to reconcile things, is that, she didn't lose, because that's the one thing that people are pissed about, that they took this story where this woman beats Sherlock Holmes and made it into him beating her, but there's the idea that he flew around the world
To save her life.
which would not have been an easy thing. Like, if you read Sui Generis by Francesca Wayland, she has it starts off with, like, how he rescues her, and it is, like, a dangerous operation. Getting out of Pakistan is, like, a hugely dangerous thing, and so, it is, like, she won in that regard, that she
got him to
do that.
To do that for her.
Yeah.
Which is
and it was
highly
not because he just
sentimental.
wanted to get laid. It was
That was some sentiment
Which
right
is
there.
I don't think that was Moffat's intention at all, but we don't have to go with what they intended.
Right.
We
Right.
can
Of course
say,
not.
no, this is actually what happened.
Transformative.
Through you.
Yes.
Right.
For taking this really awesome story.
Yeah.
Yes.
And turning it into
So let me ask, do you guys think that Sherlock and Irene had sex?
Yes.
Yes.
They totally boned.
They did.
Oh,
Definitely
yeah.
did.
They had a night.
Boned.
They had at least one night, possibly
At least
more.
one.
Even Ben admits
Benedict's
that
on our
Sherlock.
side.
Yeah.
Oh no, he loves to throw that one in the face.
Yeah.
Every
Even-
chance he gets, he wants to talk about that.
Yeah. Even
I
Ben will
They
be
had
the
great
first.
chemistry.
together.
Yeah.
They did, yeah.
Weren't they dating?
Yeah.
No, I don't believe
Okay,
so.
I thought I
no.
heard that rumor. Sorry.
Listen, you give that character a riding crop, you got it. The girl with the riding crop, that's his girl.
Somebody get Molly a riding crop.
Ben was
she has several.
Oh yeah, good point. She does have the one he had.
What about like less popular or
Sally.
less?
Oh, yes!
Let's talk about Sally
Let's talk
Donovan.
about the guts Sally had to even confront Lestrade about the fact
right?
that she even
Amen.
thought that he was that way.
Yes.
She was on those cases.
Yeah, she put
She
her
was on
job
some
on
of
the line.
That's a
She
huge
did.
thing within the police department. That's huge.
Yes.
Yes.
She had her name attached to some of the cases that he was involved in.
Yes.
That in revealing him as a fraud, she was revealing herself as someone who colluded with a fraud.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was incompetent.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's so it's crazy because like people act like she did it lightly and just out of spite, and it's like, well, she has been around. Like, she's very young. I think Vanette Robinson was only like 26, 27 whenever the show started. You know, she's already a sergeant, so like, you know, she's got a lot to lose, and he's been around a while. Like, she could have done this way earlier,
Right, especially as a
But-
woman of color in a white male dominated field.
Yeah, and so I think it's just the fact that this had to do with children was
Yeah.
kind of like what probably tipped.
Yeah, this is
over.
the buck stops here, buddy.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm not going to let you endanger children.
She was given breadcrumbs as
She
well.
was, yeah, because it's implied, and I wish that this had come out more about Moriarty having somebody within the department. Like, that guy wasn't just there to watch Lestrade.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, he's seen, I think, or a guy who looks like him at least talking earlier to Donovan. Like, you know,
She
so
was given
he could have been there
breadcrumbs,
poisoning
and
the
she
well.
went where the evidence led her, which
Yeah.
is what a good police officer does.
Yes.
I won't say I wasn't pissed off at her during
yeah.
the
Oh, no.
Oh, no,
We were definitely
yeah.
pissed.
And the audience know things
Right.
that she doesn't know. So
Yeah,
we're just
she
like,
didn't
no.
do it. Like,
Like,
given the evidence that she had, I absolutely understand why she
Yeah.
came to
And
Oh,
her
yeah.
belief,
She did.
and her belief / fear that Sherlock was going to turn out to be
a killer.
a
and he
psychopath
was,
all
and she was
along.
Wow,
right.
he did.
He
Huh.
did murder somebody.
Yeah,
So
in
she
cold
was
blood.
Yeah.
It's not
right.
the right case that she was involved
Yeah,
in.
just
Yeah.
right though.
She
Yeah.
was.
I am sorry. I guess there was a scene written for Sally Donovan to come back, but they
Yeah.
Yeah.
She
It
couldn't
was a
see that
conflict.
I would have really loved to see her.
I know.
We love
She's an
Vanette.
interesting
Vanette
character.
Robinson.
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
incredible.
Love her.
Brilliant.
But then that goes back to the first part of, what is it, The Empty Hearse, where it's the entire year of Lestrade and Donovan running around for this case, and he drops the case into Sally's lap and says, take the cut, take the thing. And she's like, you've been working on this for a year. And he's like, no, take it. You get the.
I gotta go, yeah.
Yeah, I gotta go save Sherlock for a
From his
best man
best
thing.
man.
Yeah,
And
so
that-
you take the cuff. And so her name is now on this huge
You could take it
takedown.
as that he didn't care enough. He cared more about Sherlock than the case, or you could take it that he trusted her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
To get it right.
It's both. It's definitely both.
Even
That scene
after.
gave me so much life though, because so many people were calling for her blood, for her to like, you know, subjugate herself to.
She needs to
Sherlock
be
and
living on the
apologize.
street, pushing
And
her
then
shit around,
she
talking to
was
herself.
so gorgeous in that episode.
Yes.
They worked at it. We need to work harder. That's
So
what she
big.
said.
Yeah.
You know, they're working. We need to work harder.
Which was a complete juxtaposition. Yeah, sorry.
Juxtaposition.
Yes, that one.
Here you go.
From the last episode, The Fall,
Yeah.
where Lestrade and Donovan were at each other's throats because she was following the leads, and Lestrade's like, no, Sherlock, I understand Sherlock, and she's like, no, you're not following the case. To this thing where you see Lestrade doing the entire, I trust you 100% completely with this.
Yeah.
Do what do what you need to do.
Yeah.
So, you know, the fact that Lestrade's apparently forgiven her after these 2 years, why can't the rest of us?
Yeah.
He understands what she was
There's
doing.
so much about the show that's about the forgiveness that the characters give each other that the audience
Refuses to.
refuses to.
Yeah.
And I
Yes.
don't mean, and obviously I pretty much mean a very specific portion of the
Yes.
audience. Because other people either just move on and don't care,
Are.
or are like us and are like willing to go in and analyze
Yeah.
it and get to the point where we can understand why they were able to forgive this character, and therefore we can do it ourselves.
Yeah. And
Yes.
And you can either take it from the external, what I call the external viewpoint. You work in the industry, so you probably have a better term for it. But like where you're going with it from the outside perspective of the show, where they wrote something wrong or they needed to fix something, or you can just go, well, we have to deal within the reality of what the
was
show
this
is.
the Watsonian versus Doyle? Doylist.
Is
like,
that-
thing.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
But
Well, you know,
Yeah.
I feel like people are more willing to forgive Anderson. His
Oh, I
than they are
know.
willing to
Freaking
forgive
Anderson.
Donovan.
Yes.
Again, when Sherlock insults Donovan, he's really just making an observation with that, the knee thing.
Oh,
and
yeah, with the
thing.
dirty pants.
But he never calls her an idiot. He calls Anderson an idiot.
Yeah.
Shut up, Anderson.
I think that he does respect Donovan. I think
lowering
he
the
does,
IQ of the
at
entire
least
group.
he knows that she doesn't back down. She's a good cop, you know?
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't, I don't think he begrudges her any of that.
Yeah.
I don't think he likes her.
I think
but
the
think
two
he
She
respects her.
snarks at him first.
I was going to say, I
However
think
many
they snark.
times
This
she-
is probably a history of them snarking
because-
with each other.
Well, the
Much
thing
she
she
calls
said
him as a
was,
freak.
The first time I watched that episode, I was just like, oh, these are the type of characters that are going to end up getting together later. They have that sort of like
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
a
they
rare
do. They
pair.
do that banter.
Until he brought in the whole blowjob thing, and then I was like,
Oh.
too far, dude.
Okay,
too
well-
far.
There's your rare pair.
That one, I'm all about that.
Well,
Yeah.
no, when she asked John, did he follow you home? That to me was like, he followed her home.
I love fics where they're exes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my
I do
god!
too.
I need these.
And she came a long way. Wasn't it in the? I didn't see the pilot, but I saw like clips of it where she was like much more buttoned up, much more like
Ashton,
a foot.
It was a different actress.
Yeah. Oh, was it a different
Yeah,
actress?
it
A
was
different
Zoe
actress,
Ashton.
plus they had her in a police uniform.
Right.
She was in a uniform, a constable uniform.
Oh,
instead of
okay. That's what it was.
Well, yeah, they
So
gave her
women take
promotion
it.
in it.
Yeah.
No, they had still called her a sergeant, but I guess somebody called them out on it and said she wouldn't be wearing a uniform. She would
Right.
be in street clothes.
Yeah.
See these.
What?
Okay, who's next?
Sarah.
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 Wait a minute.
Sarah, who I love, except for the fact that the woman could not figure out how to rock a chair over.
Just
Fall down.
That's bad
You
writing.
can rock the chair. Yes,
Yeah.
that.
Bad
I will
writing.
Is
defend
that
a
the
lot of the
doctor?
writing on the show. I will never defend that.
That
bit.
was terrible.
Yeah.
But after that, she went out with him
Yeah,
again.
I know.
Okay,
after what
okay,
had
okay.
to be the worst
Shows
first
no
date
yeah.
ever.
Right.
She's the same type of person.
Yeah.
I honestly thought she was going to be their version of Mary Morstan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Sarah Mary is close enough, and I thought, well, they're just playing with the names. I really thought she had the potential to be.
Yeah. Refresh my memory. Did they ever tell us how Sarah's and John ended?
Nope.
No.
She just disappeared.
They made some
Yeah.
comment about
But-
her not being around, and that's it.
Wait, no, they mentioned
I thought
her
she went
as
away
one in a
somewhere.
list of
She did.
exes.
She went to.
I thought she went to like New Zealand.
Yeah,
they
she
went on
went to-
vacation somewhere, and
That
they
was all
broke
in the
up
blog,
over
I
it.
think.
That was from the
on
blog.
on
Okay.
his blog.
That
Yeah.
wasn't the show. Yeah.
So
yeah.
semi-official.
But I mean,
I'm not getting it from a fanfic.
What we get in Belgravia, you know, that whole thing when Charlotte's going through the list of girlfriends, we can see that John is just not.
There's a reason they call them three
these
continent
girlfriends.
Boston.
Yeah. And then mentions the doc. He's like, you know, he mentions the doctor as being one of them.
And the whole
so.
scene
Isn't
with his
Sarah the
girlfriend, what was it,
doctor?
Jeanette,
Yeah.
at the wedding party,
Okay,
at the
yeah.
Christmas party, where
Yeah. So that
is she the one with the dogs? She's like, I'm the one with the dogs.
Yeah.
But it's like, John was
Sherlock,
terrible
she
for
was
her.
the teacher.
That's the teacher.
That's
She
the
was
teacher.
the
She doesn't
teacher.
have a dog.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what
yeah.
teacher was
The
talking
one
about.
with
boring
the dog, one with
teacher.
the nose, and who was the
boring
boring teacher? That would be me.
Yeah.
But I'm still just like, Jeanette, she was so beautiful. I'm just
She
like,
was.
Yeah, no, she was way out of John's league.
Way.
Well, I think the whole headcanon that Patrick Todd came up with that he's just really good at giving head was just probably.
Apparently.
How does he get to the point where he can do that though? Because
Yeah.
They just let him
Apparently
talk
he
out.
makes.
maybe I'm set bias because I just think he looks like a.
Well, yeah, we know
Yeah,
that
no,
first
he's got
impression,
game.
Yeah,
He's got
he's
game.
got to have some
in the
decent
show
game.
he's got some kind of
He's bumbly
chick
charming.
magnet.
The show takes place in a different universe.
He
Yeah.
has a huge
Oh.
chick magnet.
You know who I miss? Anthea.
Can we talk
Oh
about
yes,
Anthea?
we have to talk about this because Tragic Vampire, who's like one of my favorite people ever. I know she's going to listen to this because, yeah, I do need to talk to
I miss her.
because I was really upset that she was not included in season 4.
I know.
I mean, I
He
loved
had a male
his
assistant when he got called. I was talking to the Prime Minister. I was like, that should have been Anthea talking to him.
We
exactly.
never really, unless maybe I missed something, we never got closure after the whole, like, she drops John Watson off with Irene Adler. He's like, oh, he thought he was being Mycroft. She was,
Yeah, that's not supposed to be her. No, it's
I
not
never
her.
caught that. Oh my
It's
goodness.
supposed to look
Look
like
alike?
her.
Yeah,
But
it was
it's not her.
That's the whole point. Irene found
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I found that out recently because I didn't know that either.
John sees his face and he's like, "Yeah, I'll follow you."
She's got brown hair. She's voluptuous.
She's looking at her phone. It's got to be her.
Yeah.
Can we talk about how Anthea is like everybody's favorite side character, and she's been in like what 2 episodes?
Yes, she's amazing.
Yeah, and Anthea is the Bamf of every family.
Yes,
she's not even Anthea. That's not even her name.
That's not even her name, but we love her.
They established that it was Andrea.
Yeah.
Oh, did they?
No, I just love that this.
In one of the
Okay.
scripts, yeah, she's listed as Andrea.
Can I say
And
about
then in what's it when he gets his coat back? What if he?
Shit.
He calls her.
she
He
is
calls
in
her something. It's like it's
Crap, I
some
don't
Germanic,
remember.
Like not terribly.
I just know that she's one of the only women that gets to touch his coat.
I know.
Honestly, no, but that's one of the most relatable moments in the entire series.
Yeah. Also, her
When she's
face.
in the
Her
back of the
face
car.
during that whole damn.
When she's in the back of the car with John for the first
yeah.
time, and he's like hitting on her, and she gives him a fake name.
Yeah.
Like, who among us has not done that?
And not only does she do it, is that a real name?
About it.
No.
But because she goes,
she's not into him at all.
Anthea. She does that long little in first too, just to make sure that he knows that it's a fake name.
Like the entirety of that scene is visibly texting. I don't have a phone. Yeah.
You can't text me.
Yeah.
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 I
But
won't allow it.
But the look on her face at the end of or the beginning of Empty Coffin. When they're when Mycroft and Sherlock are going back and forth. I'm sorry, the empty hearse. Where Mycroft and Sherlock are going back and forth, and Anthea's just standing there.
She's
and
just, like,
she just
looking.
rolls her eyes. She's like looking at both of them, and she just rolls her eyes like she's been party
there,
to
done
these
that.
conversations before. It's like
Absolutely,
sweet
Is
Jesus,
it
not
Elixir
again.
BB that has the headcanon that she's a Holmes cousin?
Yes, I love that headcanon.
That's actually a common one because Nicole has that one too.
She could be Uncle Rudy's daughter.
Yeah, that's true.
Dear God, I hope.
Oh
not.
shoot,
Oh
that would
God.
be great.
That would be so great.
New
Somebody
fic
write
headcanon.
that.
Yeah, somebody write that.
She's definitely. I feel like I get a very Holmesian vibe from her. I feel
Yeah.
like she's family. She's in the family
Somehow, which would make perfect sense.
Yeah.
She fits it. Who else would Mycroft trust with all his
Exactly.
Right.
You mean
Exactly.
besides Donna from Parks and Rec?
Oh, Donna.
Oh, Donna. That's
Classic Donna.
I love that headcanon that Donna worked for Mycroft for a while.
That would be hilarious.
I love that meme with her as Sherlock Holmes and Aziz Ansari.
Oh my God.
I love that. Have you guys seen that photo?
I don't
Yes.
think so.
It's amazing.
And somebody edited that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're in front of the 221B thing.
Yeah.
Love it.
Okay, so who else do we have?
I think the only
Oh.
left is
Oh,
Janine.
yeah,
Well, we
Janine.
can talk about
Sulin
Janine.
and then
Sulin,
Janine.
yes.
Oh yeah, I do like
Listen.
Sulin.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like that. I don't like that
People who deserve
episode.
better.
But she
Oh my
deserved the
God.
best.
I couldn't believe they actually killed her off.
They're like, "Eh, she's
If we
dead."
talk about like a woman being killed off just to see how it affects a
Oh,
man,
yes.
that was
Right,
all about-
yes.
Yeah, I
So
could
John
not.
could feel guilty about leaving her behind. There
Yes.
was no reason.
No
Yeah.
reason she needed.
Yeah.
to
But
die.
she was
No
killed
sense.
by her own brother.
Yeah.
That's
it didn't
just
make
messed
sense
up.
anywhere.
If you want to, if you want a redemption for her, you got to read. Is it The Falling by Petraton?
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah. Suman
Yes.
gets hers
Oh,
back,
that's a
and
good
that's a
one.
great
Yeah.
I
thing.
love that fic.
I'm such a whore for the AUs, but yeah.
Yeah,
that's
same. Oh,
So
man.
I am not a werewolf fan, but that one made me.
Yeah,
weep.
yeah, it was a really interesting story. Yeah, done that.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, the guts it took for Sulin to leave the Black Lotus gang and move
Yes.
to another country,
Start over.
Yeah.
start completely over, and then become a freaking docent at a
Yeah.
museum.
Yes.
Yeah, at a museum that's supposed to pretty much be the British Museum. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, well, not
Evil
even a
counterpart,
docent.
yeah.
Like, she was responsible
Yeah.
for these very important
Yeah.
artifacts.
Yeah.
And that her home and culture were that important to her that she could have hid anywhere.
Anywhere.
But she needed to stay that connected to her culture. That's
Yeah.
a really
Yeah.
amazing character.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and even when she needs to be running away,
Yeah.
she has to
Yes.
come back
To have work.
to finish her work.
Yep.
And that's just admirable to me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
She's a really good character who deserved better and got killed from man pain. So
Yeah.
That's like the
theme.
worst thing that could ever happen.
Yeah.
That man pain. Ugh.
But didn't they donate money so in Sulin's name to the museum at the end.
I have no idea.
Wasn't that in
they
the
named something
script
for
that
her or
they
something.
put out that
It's like a
didn't get
deleted
actually-
scene or
yeah, I was
something.
gonna
Yeah,
say.
so we'd see that they had donated the money. From
Yeah.
the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
which would have that would have been an excellent scene to keep.
They
in.
should have kept
They,
that.
there's so many scenes that they could have kept in there.
Just let her go and do her
Let
thing.
him have the man
in
pain
the
that
show
she
with
almost
her, in
died.
the episode with her doing her fucking tea pouring and
Yeah.
like there
Yeah.
she is, happy and free. Of this
God, they didn't even
gay.
let Madam What's her name live, did they?
No.
Oh no, she died.
But that is a
Moriarty
really
gets
good. That
her.
episode is just such a great example of like as far as stereotypes for Asian women.
Yeah.
That you literally have the China doll
And
the
the
dragon
dragon
lady.
lady.
Yeah.
Yes.
Episode.
Wow, God, I never put
Like
that
it's
together.
a terrible. It's such a.
I hate that episode.
Like,
Yeah, it's
That's
horrible.
the least
It's
favorite
horrible.
episode.
But
That
it's like-
between
but
that
it's-
and the damn I can't rock a chair over.
Yeah, the only redeemable
I
quality
could
is
do that
that
when I
you
was
do
two.
see at times Sherlock being gentle and kind with women.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's the only
Yeah, they're
redeemable
definitely
thing about
parts I
it.
like
how
Well-
it's with
episode,
Amanda.
But
And
yeah.
her and him appreciating her work.
Yeah.
That was
my least
important.
favorite
And even
episode.
he's sort of okay with he teases Sarah, but it's not doesn't seem malicious the way he treats
Right.
Sarah.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like who are
Teasing
you?
versus
Who the
taunting.
Fuck are you?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
You know, it's like we've got work to do. What are you doing here?
Yeah.
Well, this circus date.
For three.
Three-way.
Three-way circus date.
But that's not enough to like get. Oh my god,
Yeah.
it's just so
Yeah,
bad.
It
there's
is.
moments I like.
Somebody
Least favorite
compared the Orientalism to like a 1980s detective show.
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like all
That
Curse
was-
of the Jade Scorpion or whatever.
it's like somebody called it like an episode of Remington
the
Steele.
Jade
or
Dragon.
something.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Like, yeah.
But I did enjoy this scene. I forget the secretary's name at the end with the jade pin. Like,
Yeah.
Oh,
I enjoyed
yeah.
that scene.
That was
Yes, that was great.
That was his
Yeah.
girlfriend at the time.
Yeah.
Oh, was it? Oh,
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was dating her at the
Oh,
time.
that's funny. I
Oh,
like that.
interesting.
That's a fun fact.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
All right.
Okay, last but not least, Miss Julie's favorite person.
I will recuse myself from the conversation.
No,
Not
you
today.
can no,
No.
I have
no.
an irrational dislike of the woman because of the whole. I know you best, Sherlock. I know
Oh no,
he did her wrong.
I hate that. I hate that scene with the
That was
passion.
all on him. He was
Yeah.
rotten to her, but I still can't stand her. So
Yeah.
I'm out of the conversation.
No,
And now can talk.
we can have this.
We're
word on
talking
that.
about Janine.
There is no doubt in my mind that
No, no.
Sherlock told her that
He
as
led her to believe
part
that.
of
I
building
understand that.
everything up to
Right
where
here.
he knew he was going to marry
Nope.
her.
I can't
or
watch
ask
that
her to
scene to
marry
this
him.
day.
I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So we're
Yes.
talking about Janine, in case anybody was curious.
Okay, yeah, we're talking about
Janine,
her.
the official canon fiance
My
of Sherlock
blood did
Holmes.
boil during that when you meet Janine.
Even
and
if
you're
it
like,
was
I
fake.
see Molly. I see her. She's
I
standing
know.
right there
You-
in a tool bag.
Yeah,
What is this?
exactly. Oh my
But
god.
as a character on her own,
Yeah. Yeah.
divorced from all of that, she was fun. She
Yeah.
was sassy. She
Yes.
was not afraid of her sexuality.
Yeah.
And game for anything.
I love
Oh
that.
yeah.
She was the first person who called him Sherl.
Oh Lord.
Shirley.
Oh Cheryl.
Cheryl and Mike.
Yeah.
Shirley Mike, yeah.
Shirley Mike.
Yes, I forgot she did
Yeah.
call him Mike, yes.
Do people really call him that? Micro.
And John's like, what the hell is happening in this alternate universe? I don't even know what's going on right now.
Yeah, an alternate universe where I'm being invited around for dinner for like a double date with this dude. And
Yeah.
his-
Yeah.
And his
It
girlfriend.
speaks to the
Like-
quality of John's social life. But-
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I remember I was pretty sure like where they were gonna go with her. Like as soon after she was given so much prominence in the Sign of Three, and knowing I was like, oh, she's gonna be the maid.
Yeah, the maid. Yeah.
That Sherlock gets engaged to, and even knowing that, it was still just like, what the
Yeah.
fuck is
Yeah.
that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was just worried. I didn't know how far
They were gonna take
I
in
was
it.
glad that
Yeah.
because I was just like, that's a really fine line between if he had sex with her, it would have been horrible.
That's
Yeah.
why I'm glad that
Yeah.
I still can't
Yeah.
believe people don't realize that. There are still
Yeah.
people who think they had sex. And
He
I'm
said,
like,
No.
I'm saving it for marriage.
Yeah.
That was
She
very
wished they had
sarcastically
done
called
it.
that out.
She made that pretty obvious.
Well, I mean, I think they did something.
They did stuff.
Well, they
It
did
is.
stuff,
But-
obviously, but not.
No,
Yeah,
I think that
She
he
couldn't
cared
make it.
enough about her as a person that he was like, no, I'm not going to cross that line.
Yeah, Sherlock Holmes
Yeah.
has lines.
Yeah,
What's
they can't
everybody's-
reach Sherlock. as
My
being
favorite
creepy.
Janine
Yeah.
is definitely from Sign of Three, where they had that thing, and and he's making the comments where she's where she's like, oh yeah, I'm totally going to use you. What about that guy? What about that guy?
Yeah.
What about
And
that guy?
he's like, really no.
And then
open
he
with
says
it.
something about the handcuffs, and he's like, save it for later, you cheeky girl, or whatever.
Yeah,
And I'm just
down
like,
girl.
down girl.
Down girl.
And I love the interaction they
Yeah,
had
yeah.
in that movie. In that, so I
Yeah,
could
and I think
see.
she's right that they could have been friends if he.
Oh, yeah,
not that
no,
if
they
he just
totally
asked
could have been
her,
friends.
If he had just, especially if he's like, I can take this man down.
Yeah.
Because I've always thought that he held
Yes.
something over Janine.
Yeah,
to
well,
keep
he
her.
did because he said
Yeah.
If he was able to flick her in the eyeball.
What do you guys think?
I don't.
Yeah, because that's a really interesting question. Because based on
always-
what we have on
I've
her,
always, like, in my back of my mind, I've always said, like, sex tape, something like that.
I always had.
Although I'm
she's
sure-
Irish, I had canon that she had an abortion.
Oh.
She went to England and like it was something her mother or her father.
I was going to
would
say
never
something
forgive
just
her
personal
for.
to her family.
Yeah.
Sex tapes, I don't think she'd care about unless it impacted her family.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So
I
I
can see the abortion, yeah.
But on the
Go
other
ahead,
hand, I'm
Kenan.
perfectly willing to think that she blackmailed somebody
Yeah,
else
that-
or something too.
Yeah,
I
it could be
get that.
something. Yeah, it could be something because especially if she feels like she's sort of the same kind of person as Sherlock, it could be something not like blackmail, but something pretty like
She might have
amoral
done
or morally gray that she
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
You know, even some sort of petty theft or
or something.
Just took
I
advantage of
don't,
someone
I don't think she's a
inside.
murderer.
No.
Oh, of course not. No.
And, you know, I don't think she went and stabbed somebody or shot them in the head when they were unarmed.
But
or,
as
you know.
soon as she
Yeah, he
found
deserved
out
it.
what he had done, what did she do? I'm gonna go screw you over, Miss.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that she just rolled
She
with
screwed
it. Like,
two
I'm gonna make
people
this work
over.
for me.
Yeah.
She screwed him over and her own boss over because she was just like, whatever.
Former boss, I'm
Former.
sure.
Well,
Yeah.
I always thought too that Janine's interactions with Sherlock were very similar to actually his and Mary's interactions.
Yes.
They're
Oh, yeah,
sassy,
yeah.
They throw it right back. They don't take it very seriously. They have a lot of fun, and I think that was for Janine. That was her way of shooting him. Like, is this whole like, you know, you value your privacy. You know, you don't want to have sex. I'm gonna make the world think that that's all you do. I'm gonna flip this around so that everybody just kind of looks at you like
Shaglock.
Maybe one of their
His
guys.
name and
Only
then
Sherlock.
If she was getting back at John,
7
she certainly
times
would
a
not
night.
have done the
Yeah.
7 times
On
a
bigger
night.
screen.
It would have been more
Right.
like he couldn't get it up.
Right.
Yes.
If he gave a crap about that, that's
we
what she
tried
would
7
say.
times a night, but not
Yeah. Can we talk about Kate? Isaac's
sure.
mother?
Yes.
Okay.
Neighbor Kate.
I want to talk about the
I was thinking about
fact
Irene's redneck
that
Kate,
she
but
came
yeah.
over there. She wasn't there to talk to John. She wasn't there looking for Sherlock. She was there to talk to Mary.
Yes.
Yes.
She wanted help from Mary
that's
specifically.
Wait a minute,
Yeah,
which
well,
one's
you can
Kate?
imagine. Yeah, well, and Mary knew who she was.
Mary
Knew
actually
about
knew
her
who she
life.
was.
Yeah.
John didn't know
Yeah.
who she was. Or
Yeah.
like,
Well, the
he
drugs
didn't
one.
care.
He refers very like
Yeah.
inconsiderately refers to her son as the drugs
My
one.
son.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, Kate.
Super of like John being a total dick was that episode. actually.
Yes,
Where
yes.
he was that insensitive to Kate.
Well, he's so wrapped up in his own shit.
Yeah.
Well, that might be a little bit of the Sherlock influence rubbing off on him too.
Well,
People
no,
always like to talk about how much John influences Sherlock, but there's parts of Sherlock that tend to rub off on John as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm not giving him a free pass.
No, I feel
do
like-
think though if somebody came to Sherlock with that specific problem, considering his background, he would take it serious.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think John is hugely empathetic. in the
No,
first
I don't
place.
think he is
So,
at all. And people
yeah.
like act like he is. And I'm like,
Yeah, he doesn't
no.
balance out Sherlock in the way that people seem to make him out to be. That
about
he's
time
the
to wrap it
deep
up?
carrying one.
Oh yeah,
that's
that was a
upset
big
this
thing
and
during the
that's-
John Locke panel was about how they balance and complete each other.
But they
Yeah,
do.
well,
They
bullshit.
enable each other.
Oh my God.
I think that in canon, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's but they were
Sherlock.
talking. Yeah, they
hell
were
no.
talking.
BBC
All,
Sherlock
in this
is
case, they
very-
were specifically talking BBC Sherlock.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
as much, and that's writing. You know, again, that's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
How
it's some of
it's
the Watson choices that they made.
yeah.
I'm sorry, we've gotten off topic.
Yeah,
and
sorry.
No, it's
Kate.
fine.
Kate.
But a bit soon.
But what, yeah,
We're
the
gonna wrap
fact
it.
that she came specifically to Mary for help.
Yeah.
And that was from canon right there because there was a whole line in ACD canon about how people would come to Mary.
Yeah.
John was just praising his wife about how empathetic and sympathetic she was and how people would come to her naturally with their troubles because they could tell that she would be able to help her with them.
Yeah.
And then this is one of those things, like kind of back to Mary, that always irritated me, like the way that people perceive her, is whenever John tells Kate that she's looking for Sherlock Holmes. She doesn't know who Sherlock is,
Yeah.
and Mary said, "See, that happens sometimes." People took that as her being like snarky or mean. about it. It's like, no, she's saying, because she's probably told him many times that it is a duo, it's both of them, not just Sherlock, and John doesn't believe her, and she's just saying and reinforcing, see, she knows who you are, doesn't know who Sherlock is.
Or why would she be looking to Sherlock when I'm her neighbor and I'm the one who's been talking to her about all of this, and I'm the one she's been laying this burden down with. So why would she care? Why would she be looking for Sherlock? She's looking for me because this is the person.
She was looking for John too, though.
Yeah,
because John would be the one that she would think first, because obviously Mary's a pregnant lady who doesn't know knows that he's a gun.
Right.
So she John would be the one who would go into this drug den. And find.
She was going as a neighbor, not as a client.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
and John just saw her as a client.
And John's just like, you're looking for Sherlock, and Mary's like, no, not everybody needs Sherlock's skills. Some people need your skills. But people took that somehow. I don't even know how they twisted it to be like Mary just being mean to John.
They find a lot of
she's being encouraging to him. Evil. She's irritated at him, but she's being encouraged.
Everything Mary does is evil, so there you go.
Yeah. What do you call telling him that it's a tiny bit sexy, that he's going in all gung ho?
With the tire iron in his pants.
Yeah.
It's a tiny bit sexy.
Tiny bit sexy.
Tire iron is to Mary as riding crop is to Molly.
Yes. And it all
I will
comes
never
back
get
to
over the
Molly.
look on Molly's face up there and that observing.
Oh my god.
Just like,
my god.
Yes.
The anime was so pretty.
Yes.
And then the picture of her like all red and sweaty.
She is. Anime Molly.
It's got her shaking.
She's not just watching him, she's watching.
I took pictures of that and I tweeted it to Lou. And she liked my post. And I was like, it was beautiful.
It's so funny because somebody posted to Lou do you think that Molly and Sherlock will get together? And she's like, I don't know. I don't know if Molly is Sherlock's type. And then I retweeted her. I don't know. I think the girl with access to dead bodies is definitely Sherlock's type.
Yeah.
And she was like, she liked it, and she was like, maybe.
Where do you think he gets all his body parts from? He
probably gets them from
butcher shop.
That's one of those mysteries that will never get resolved as to whether he had official access or not.
Yeah.
You never know if she was sneaking them to them, or if Mycroft arranged something where he got them, or if maybe just Mike Stanford, who obviously liked the man, just gave him that permission.
Yeah.
Treat him like he's a medical student. Because that's kind of the feeling that I got, that he had the same access that he would have if he was one of their students and Mike was in charge of that program.
Yeah.
Well, I hope everybody has enjoyed our spirited discussion.
We're going to wrap this up now.
We are.
And the women of Sherlock.
And the way Sherlollians are perceived.
Oh, yeah, especially that one.
Yes.
So, yeah. You say bye?
Bye!